This is tea time. Yeah. Making a difference. One cup at a time. Tea time. So be sure to grab your tea, grab a seat, and tune in to Miss Liz. Tea time. Making a difference. One cup at a time. Tea time. Tea time.
Welcome. That's right. I am back. It is the second tea time. That's right. A double dipper. That's what we're doing tonight again. You'll notice that for the last 3 months, I've been doing one week with a double dipper. So tonight we have JP McLean in the house, and we will be doing some supernatural fiction, thrillers, stories, all of that good stuff, some human resources, all of that good stuff. But before we get started, we're going to do the disclaimer, and then I'm going to do the intro of her bio, and then we're going to get her popping in, and let's get some thriller going on. So the disclaimer for Miss Liz's Tea Time live show. Miss Liz is going live using StreamYard. Before leaving a comment, please grant StreamYard permission to see your name at StreamYard.com. Please be advised that the content brought forward for any Tea Time shows hosted by Miss Liz, myself, is always brought forward in good faith, however, may bring forth dialogue and opinions that are not representative of my platform. The facts and information are perceived to be accurate at the given time of airing. All Tea Time guests and audience participation are responsible for using good judgment in taking any action that may relate to this discussion. The content brought forward may include discussion for some where they may be emotionally at risk. It is significant to know that this show is engaging in discussion forums only to offer and inspire awareness and connection, and not providing therapeutical advice. If you have any questions about this disclaimer or the panelist discussion, you may freely contact me, Miss Liz, through my email at bookingmissliz@gmail.com. Moving forward, should you choose to voluntarily participate in this tonight's show in any aspect, I myself, Miss Liz, welcomes you. And should you decide that the show is not made for you at this time, I respect that, and I will see you at a later show at a later date. And there we go. We have the disclaimer out there. Now I'm going to get JP into the studio, and I'm just going to read her bio, but I want you to see this incredible lady. And we are both drinking Bengal tea tonight, so I think we have something in common. So let me jump JP into the studio. Welcome, JP.
Welcome. I'm so glad to be here. Thanks.
So I'm just going to do a quick little intro of you, JP, and then we're going to sit and share some tea, do some supernatural, get some human resources, dig, and do all that stuff tonight. So JP McLean is a best-selling author of urban fantasy and supernatural thriller. She is a Global Book Award winner, a Chanticleer, I'm not sure if I'm saying it right, Paranormal Award for supernatural fiction, and Page Turner Award finalist, and has received honors from the Eric Hoffer Book Awards, the Wishing Shelf Book Awards, the NIEA Awards, and the Whistler Independent Book Awards. I have to learn all these words. What did they all? There's so many. Congratulations. Her work has won a Reader's Favorite Award, 2 Gold Literature Titan Medals, and honorable mention from the Whistler Independent Book Awards and the Victoria Writers Society. Reviewer calls her work addictive, smart, and fun. And for more on JP, please check out her full bio on Miss Liz's Facebook page. And I want to know about all these awards. Like, oh my goodness, we have so much to talk about tonight with this tea.
I was as surprised as you, believe me. And now that I've heard somebody read them off, I'm going to cut them down a little bit because they're just embarrassing. So an embarrassment of riches, as they say. But yeah, I decided to submit. I hadn't done that before, but when I finished the first book in the new series, I thought I'm just going to put myself out there. It's risky, you know. So much is on the line for your ego and your confidence. And so I was utterly shocked and surprised to get emails coming in saying, you're a finalist, you're shortlisted, you're longlisted, you won. It was fabulous.
Well, it's nice, right, to win all these awards, but at some point it does get overwhelming as well, right? Like we're grateful and appreciative of the awards, but sometimes when you hear them, I know when someone reads my bio too, I'm like, let's just cut that a little. Like,
Yes, yes. This is my lesson. Is going to be yes. Pick two, maybe three.
So, JP, could you tell us a little bit about your stories? Because tonight we're talking about Bloodmark and Ghostmark, correctly, if I
Yes,
remember
yes,
right.
yes. So, Bloodmark and Ghostmark are it's my latest series. The first book was Bloodmark, and it came out last October, and Ghostmark just came out on the 1st of November. So it's still super, super fresh. And this series is my second series. And so I consciously wanted to make the characters different and the story, of course, different. I wanted it to be a completely clean break. So I also changed the way I wrote it. So the first series was written in first person from one character's perspective. And this series is 3 characters' perspectives, third person, all woven together into one story. So this one in many ways was a super big challenge for me because it was more complex to write. It's the story of a woman named Jane Walker who is born with a chain of blood red birthmarks, including a prominent one on her face. And she also suffers from debilitating dreams. You were going to say?
No, I just said, oh.
Yeah. And so because of these marks on her face and these dreams that she has, she's ostracized. She's also abandoned at birth. So she grows up in the system. And she gets to be very close friends with one of the other girls who's around her age in the system. They meet each other when they're about 13 years old. And as they grow up together, they get to be very good, close friends. But Jane is very different from her friend Sadie. Sadie is blonde, curly, vivacious, beautiful. Jane is hidden and dark, and she wears gloves to cover the marks on her hands and boots and, right up to her chin and down to her wrists kind of clothing. And so when she's 25 years old, and Sadie and her are living together at this time, they've got an apartment together. When she's 25, the tail end of one of these chains of marks disappears, and she's elated. She is so excited because she never imagined that these marks could possibly disappear. And then one day she's delivering flowers because she works in a nursery downtown. And when she's delivering the flowers, the professor who she's delivering to recognizes the mark on her hand. And he tells her, those aren't birthmarks, those are blood marks. And they are given to people in rituals. And somebody gave you that mark to protect you. And as soon as the last bit of it disappears, so will your protection. So she's got to find out who gave her those marks and why before the last one disappears.
Wow.
So that's Bloodmark, and Ghostmark carries on the story. So in the first book, because she has these debilitating dreams, what I didn't tell you is that these dreams are dreams of the past, but they're not dreams of the past in the sense that she's made it up. These are real events that have happened to people that she knows typically. And the more she dreams, the more vivid the dreams get. And they've got to the point now where she's actually physically present in the dreams. And during one of her previous dreams, at the end of Bloodmark, she makes a terrible mistake thinking she's helping somebody. But what she does, in fact, is change history, and in a very bad way. It negatively impacts some people she loves, and she suffers for it. So in book 2, there's only one person that might have benefited from that mistake she made when she changed history. One person. And she's desperate to find him so that she can at least give herself the satisfaction that not all the lives were ruined. And when she meets him, she's horrified to learn that he isn't that nice person he was before. He's now a hardened criminal in a drug gang, and he's killed people. And furthermore, she learns that he's actually targeted the only man she's ever loved. And so she has to warn her lover that this guy is as bad as they think he is, and he's coming after him. But she falls into another dream before she can reach him, and this dream won't let her go.
Wow. So what got you into the supernatural storytelling?
Oh, I love paranormal, supernatural magic of any kind. I absolutely love. And I blame John Wyndham. John Wyndham is who I blame, because when I was young, I was assigned The Chrysalids as a story to read. And it's about a dystopian world where any tiny little mutation in people is immediately met with death. They want to eliminate all mutations in people because of the terrible event that happened. People are being born with 3 arms and 10 feet and that kind of thing. And so there are these children who can communicate telekinetically, but it's not a visible disability or ability. So no one knows they're doing it except the ones who have that ability. And the concept that you could actually just look at someone and have a conversation with them without your mouth moving, I find absolutely fascinating. So ever since then, I have been watching anything paranormal, anything to do with people who can fly or people who can move things with their mind. I just find it absolutely fascinating. I wish I could fly. I wish I could move things with my mind. That would be such fun.
And I knew this is why we connected and why we're drinking the same tea tonight, because I'm the same way. It fascinates me on how they can do it, the magic of it, and just understanding the deepness in it, right?
Yeah. And the first series, I know we're not talking about the first series, but that is kind of integral to how I began in this writing this kind of stuff. Was I have these recurring dreams that I can fly. And in the dreams, I hover off the ground, and if I want to go somewhere, I just lean forward and off I go. And I've had these dreams since I was a kid. And so I decided I wanted to try to capture that sense of awe and wonder of these flying dreams. And I just started with a scene because I didn't know, I didn't think I was writing a book. I was just playing around with words and sentences and really enjoying myself. And I just kept at it, kept expanding that one scene until next thing you knew, I had this really big idea that ended up turning into that first book that I wrote, which was Secret Sky. And it's just, I can't stop. It's like a habit now. I absolutely love it. It's my reward. It's like when I know I have to vacuum on Saturday. So, okay, you'll vacuum, but when you're done, you get 3 uninterrupted hours and you can just write your heart out and have a cup of tea.
There you go, right? Get the vacuum done and then get into writing. So how long have you been writing, JP?
I started that writing project in 2011, and it didn't come out until late 2012. So it went. That book took me the longest, and I made all of the mistakes with that one. But it was a great learning experience, and I'm so glad I wrote it, and I'm so glad I persevered and made the changes I needed to make in order to make it successful. So it was a long process. It came out again in 2018. And when it came out again, I had fixed all of the errors. And when I say errors, I picked the wrong cover. I picked the wrong title. I was not doing all the things I needed to do to get it reviewed and to get it critiqued. Not critiqued, reviewed though. And I didn't submit it for any awards except for the Whistler Independent Book Awards. And I did get honorable mention for that book, but it's been a long haul.
So that's the longest book that you've taken to write is that one. So roughly it's 3-4 months that it takes you to write a book?
Oh, no, it's longer than that. It's a year.
A year?
It's not writing for a whole year. I probably write for 8 months. But the last 4 months are back and forth with beta readers, back and forth with editors, back and forth with the proofreader. So it's a lot of, after you write, you then have to go back and rewrite and tighten it up and move stuff around and add and take away. It's quite a process at the end that makes the book better in every sense, but it's a necessary process for me anyway. I know some people can write really clean, but I need to have the input of many other people.
But that's where we live, and that's when we live and learn, right? Is when we try. So like you said, your first one, that's where you learned all your mistakes and errors. But if you wouldn't have tried making that first one, then you wouldn't know how to fix all the rest of them. That's right.
It took a long time, and I giggle now because I do have a critique group, and we're very close, and we share each other's work and critique it. And every once in a while, one or the other will remind me just how far we've come. I didn't even have I refused to get Facebook before I put a book out. Well, not even before. I just didn't enjoy the platform. Now I'm on Facebook and I'm on Twitter and Instagram and I'm doing stuff like this with you. Who would have ever imagined, certainly not me, that I would be doing this? No way.
It does when other people show us how far we've come, right? And the growth. Just getting a Facebook account is a big step, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Doing a podcast, it takes a big step. Like when I look at people and I say, okay, look at Miss Liz 5 years ago and look at me now, and they're like, who are you? I'm just like, yeah, that's how much growth. And I see that with when we write, right? We grow with each story. We're like, oh well, we didn't do this with this other one, let's try this with this one. We kind of try different things, right?
Yeah. And I learned so much too from the people who provide the feedback to me. Like I have a cousin who reviews or reads my books and gives me beta feedback. And she's hilarious because she's got fabulous feedback for me all the time. But when I hear nothing from her, that means she's got a lot of feedback.
Then you're like, oh, put the pot on, we're having tea.
I have to call her and say, okay, what did I do wrong? But I've learned so much from, I mean, not only them, but probably my biggest teachers are the editors that I hire to pick the book apart and make it stronger, because I learned so much about, you know, activating the verbs and I mean, all the stuff that you learn early on when you're writing about how to describe things and using the senses and just the basics, because it's a craft and you have to learn the craft. And a lot of the craft I learned from editors. So I'm very grateful to those editors.
Well, it's a teamwork assignment, right? Like,
You are right.
you know, and I think we need that in life. We need a team in whatever we're doing, whether we're writing, we're directing, we're creating. You know, we need other people's input, because if we just do it on our own, I don't find that there's a reward in it.
Yeah.
You know?
It's also not as strong, I don't think. I mean,
No.
a lot of people resist that editorial input, but for me, everything I've ever had edited has come out stronger for it, not weaker, much stronger.
Well, the feedback, right?
Oh, absolutely. And different perspectives. Like, you only see from your perspective.
Yeah.
You know, so if you ask a man, for example, you're going to get different feedback. If you ask a younger person, you're going to get different feedback. And a senior, you would get different feedback. So it's all, the more feedback you get, the stronger your work is, for sure.
So what age range reads your books, JP?
Well, interesting. I thought the age range would be like 25 to 45, but it's not. The age range is actually 45 to 65.
Ooh.
Who knew? Who knew?
Wow.
Yeah. I was really surprised by that.
The older generation is really interested in the magic and supernatural.
Yeah. Well, maybe they're just done with all the nonfiction and they want to have fun now. I don't know. But yeah, they very much enjoy it, and I do get some really good feedback and reviews from them. So that's definitely, it's more females than males, you know, according to my stats. But a number of men absolutely love it.
Awesome. So could you tell us a little bit about these awards that you received?
Sure.
I'm going to go back and get them. The one that I couldn't say, the Chanticleer?
Chanticleer.
Chanticleer.
Yes. And I should have just written CIBA, CIBA, because a lot of people know it as the CIBA Awards. That award comes out of California, and it is awarded to a number of different categories. I just happened to make finalist in the paranormal and supernatural category. And that was a really big deal. I didn't win it, but I was a finalist. So I'd gotten through the short list and I was almost at the top. So that one I'm particularly proud of. The Global Book Award was a silver award. You can win gold and or silver, and I won silver. I've put the new book in that award category again, and you do get better with every book you write, or so they say. So with any luck, maybe I'll get a gold this year.
Oh, I'm sure you will.
And then all of the other awards, like the Wishing Shelf Book Award, that one is out of Britain. Okay. And the Editor's Choice was out of Britain. And the National Indie Excellence Award was American. And Eric Hoffer is American as well. And it's just been nuts. I absolutely did not expect to get this many. And at one point, I must say, like, look at this. I actually have a medal.
Oh, wow.
They sent me
Congratulations.
a
Oh my God, that is
medal.
gorgeous.
Like, I couldn't. Anyway, yeah. So that's from the Wishing Shelf. That's the company in Britain that it won the award for. So you can bet you I'm going to be applying to them again.
Well, those medals are gorgeous,
I want a string of them.
right? The Olympic medals of writing. I wonder
Yeah,
if there is any Olympic medals for writing.
I don't think so. I think Olympics are physical. I mean, there
So,
are a lot of big awards like the Booker and other, awards, but I'm an indie, and indies don't get to apply to all of the awards, so I apply for the ones I can apply for.
oh, so you're only allowed to apply to so many?
Well, some awards don't accept applications from indie authors. They'll only
Okay.
accept applications from traditionally published or submissions from traditionally published authors. So those ones aren't available.
Well, that's good to know. So for the viewers and listeners out there, they know if they're writing a book that they can apply for certain awards and that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I want to get into your tea. If I ask you what is your tea, what is your tea, JP?
My tea is Bengal spice. It tastes as good as it smells. Maybe it smells better than it tastes. Like when you make a cup of this tea, your house smells a little like Christmas.
That's what I was going to say when I made mine too, because we're both drinking Bengal tea tonight. Because she let me know yesterday what type of tea she was drinking, so I went searching for my Bengal tea, and we're both, and it does smell like Christmas. That's what I was trying to.
Yeah.
I
And
was
the
trying
other
to
thing I
get
like
that
about it,
smell.
the other thing I really like about it is if it cools down, because I usually have a big mug, big. So if it cools down, I like it cool too. I can
Yeah,
drink it from steaming hot right to cool down. Enjoy
it's
it.
really no, it's good hot or cold.
Mm-hmm.
So now I want to know what your TT is. So if I give you the TEA, what would your T be, JP?
TEA?
Yeah.
Is this the
What
colors
word?
you asked me?
What word? What words would you give me for the TEA? Starting with those letters.
Oh, well, I in fact did not give you a TEA. You had asked me what my favorite colors were.
Yes, I asked you that as well. Colors
Okay.
and words and that. But I asked tonight. I'm asking what your T is. So if I give you the letters TEA, what words would you give me starting with each of those letters? So 3 words.
Talkative
Oh, letters was like it.
and endearing and action oriented.
Ooh, I like it. Sounds like a good thriller.
Well, I'm loving the talkative. I'm just loving that with you.
No, I love
Very.
when you can engage with each other, right? And you understand each other. And I think it's the tea. The tea just joined us together, like it, and it does smell like Christmas. And Christmas is just around the corner.
It
So
is. It
yeah.
is. Yep. Yeah.
So any big plans for Christmas?
Actually, not this year. It's just my husband and I here on the island. We live a little wee island on the Pacific Northwest. And my family is all in Ontario, and we won't be going to visit them this year. John's family, it's my husband's family, they're here, but we don't know if they're going to be here or if they're going to be traveling at Christmas. So it'll just be John and I, unless we go into town and meet up with the rest of the family, in which case we'll probably go out for dinner because we're all kind of at the point where none of us wants a big meal to cook or clean up, and we don't have the kids and grandkids coming around, so it's just going to be small. How about you?
I'm not sure what we're doing for Christmas this year. I know my granddaughter is going to be 2 in March, so this year is going to be a little bit more fun. Last year was fun too for Christmas because she was just a couple months old, but I think we're going to be going to my daughter's house. But with everything going on, we don't try to plan too much ahead just in case, we're not allowed to be around people or anything. So, but my daughter just lives a couple minutes away, so we'll probably go to my daughter's. and my son is back home living at home, so he'll probably join us, and so it'll probably be just me and my children, like really
And do
quiet. And
you cook dinner? Do you cook a big dinner?
most of the time it's me that does the cooking, and sometimes I will make the turkey or make the ham and then bring it over to wherever we're going. So everybody
Nice.
likes the way I do my turkey, so I do the turkey most of the time.
There's nothing better than mom's turkey.
Yeah. They're like,
So
Mom,
true.
how do you do it? And I was like, oh, secret recipe. Can't tell you.
I've lived apart from my family for a long time because I moved out here to go to school, but I've been the turkey maker in my West Coast family for years, and I adore that role. I love cooking it. I don't mind the work involved at all. It's the people around me that don't like cleaning up after me, I think, that
Yeah,
complain.
it's the cleanup. The cleanup,
Yeah.
everybody kind of scoots away, right? It's like,
Yeah,
oh, I gotta
that's right.
go outside, or I gotta go and
Yeah.
watch a movie, or I gotta
Yeah.
turn the TV on, put the music on, and karaoke time. It's like everybody like kind of just disappears
Yeah,
when it
because
comes to dishes.
that's my one caveat. I'll cook, but if I'm cooking, I don't clean. And the same thing, like if you're gonna cook, I'll clean up after you and won't complain at all. But I only do one or the other.
Yeah. So if you're getting my cooking, you're doing the cleaning.
That's right. Well, maybe that's why we're going out to eat this year.
They're cooking and cleaning.
That's right. I'll
So,
take none of that and none of that. Let's go out.
right. So I also see in your bio here, JP, that you have a certified scuba diver. So you're an actual certified scuba diver.
Yeah. Yeah. When my husband and I got married, we took our honeymoon down in the Cayman Islands, and he really wanted to learn how to dive. So we did. And I'm only brave because of him. You know, if it wasn't for him, I probably wouldn't have done it. But we are really wussy people. It's just warm water. I mean, we have dived here. We live just off of Vancouver Island, between the mainland and Vancouver Island. And even in the summertime, the water is darn cold. So when we did the dive here, we came up and were freezing. We were cold to the core. And I know people do dive here, and there's some beautiful dives here, but they're dressed for it. You know, we had our Caribbean wetsuits on when we were diving here. So I love diving in the warm water, but not so much here.
So is it hard to learn to dive?
No, it's not hard at all. Some people have physical limitations, like if you can't clear your ears, like if you can't clear the pressure from your ears, and some people can't, then it's painful. You can't dive because you can't clear the pressure. But if you can clear the pressure and you're okay breathing through the regulator, it's so fascinating. I remember like one dive in particular, we were in Turks and Caicos, and from the island, it went out a distance, and then it was a sheer cliff under the water. You wouldn't know. You could only tell by the color, because from the surface you could see like a light blue, and then there was a line, and it went deep blue. And
Wow.
so we took a boat out to we were guides, you know, I didn't know it well enough to do it by myself or us by ourselves. So you go out to that blue line, and the people who are running the boat stop it and put anchor down. And then you get off the boat and you go down to the floor, and it's only about, maybe 50 feet. And you can dive down to 80 feet safely. So you go out to 50 feet, and then all of a sudden you're looking out on nothing but blue. So then you just let a little bit of air out, and you go down a little bit further, so that you're actually swimming or floating really along a wall. And that wall is absolutely teeming with interesting life. It's fan coral and sponge coral and clownfish and lobsters and shrimp and all kinds of life. So it's like, and it's an apartment building for everything under the water, and you could hold your hands across your torso and you just float along. It's the most fabulous experience. And I looked over at my husband, because he was to my left, and I just turned in amazement to say, isn't this fantastic? You can't talk, you know, you got the regulator on, you're just doing hand signals. And he's going to me and he's going, and I'm going, all I can see is jaws coming in, you know, through the deep blue. And I turn and look, and it's this enormous eagle ray, and it's just coming right up beside me like this. And these things are probably 4 feet across, no exaggeration, white underneath, and soft like marshmallows. But I didn't touch it. I did touch it in Stingray City in Caymans, but not there. But honest to God, I thought I was going to die when he said,
Look.
"Yeah, oh my God." All my nightmares.
I was envisioning part two. Like I was like, dun, here comes Jaws.
Exactly what I was thinking. We get up later and I think, don't ever do that to me again. That's no. Unless you're going to come over and go, hey,
It's coming
sacrifice yourself for me, then I'll be okay with it.
So I also see that you're a gardener here, JP. So what is it about gardening that you love?
I got to say, I'm a lapsed gardener. I love gardening. I love getting my hands dirty. It's kind of when I have a plot problem with my writing and I feel like I need a break, it's a good place to take a break because your hands are just, you know, you're pulling weeds. You don't need to think a lot about what you're doing when you're doing the gardening, and you can smell the grass and you can smell the soil and the sun's there a little bit. And it just gives you a distraction that is a good place to be when you're trying to work out a problem. I'm not thinking about it necessarily. It's kind of chugging around in the background, but it does. And I love the way it looks when it's done. I like a neat and tidy garden when it's done, but the process of getting in there and digging out the weeds is something I use to clear my mind and think about something else for a little while.
I find gardening is it kind of recharges you, right? So if you're like got a I've been told not to say writer's block, but when you get like where you can't get it out, but you know it's there, but you can't just get it out, you know. And I'll go to the flowers as well, and I'll say like, oh my goodness, let me know what I need to do. Like, how does it need to come out? Like,
yeah. When I started writing, I was doing a lot of gardening. I had a giant vegetable patch as well as many, many flower beds. And when I started writing and then went full-time writing, I couldn't do both. So I gave up the veggie patch except for 2 small raised beds. And I don't even do them very well anymore. And then the flower beds, I'm trying to make them as not fussy as possible. So I'm taking out the stuff that needs divided regularly, and they're not going to be as full of flowers as they used to be, but they'll have more flowering shrubs in them so that I can do less work and dedicate more time to writing, because people, I don't think, realize, and I'm sure they don't care either, but writing takes an enormous amount of time. And it's not just the time you're spending at the keyboard, but you're also spending time researching little bits and pieces, and it takes headspace. So even when I'm not writing, I'm thinking about problems and dialogue and fight scenes and choreographing. It takes a lot of time.
so let's get back into some of your books. So we're going to be talking a little bit more tonight about the Blood Mark and the Ghost Mark. And Ghost Mark just came out November 1st, so make sure to go out and grab that copy. If anybody would like to get a copy, JP, where could they find these books?
They can find them wide, so they're available at all the usual suspects: Amazon, Kobo, Nook, and Apple Books. And if you want a quick access, just go to my website, jpmcleanauthor.com, and there's a bookstore tab that has links to all the places where you can buy the book.
Oh, awesome. So for the viewers and listeners that are just tuning in, tonight we're talking with JP about supernatural thriller books that she has written. She's written a lot. So if you check out her website, you'll see a whole list of books, because I've been checking out your website all afternoon. I'm just like, oh my goodness. Now, if you could be any character, JP, what character would you be in your book?
Hands down, Emmeline Taylor. I would be Emmeline in a flash, because Emmeline can fly.
Oh, there we go.
Emmeline can fly. Yeah. And I gave Emmeline some of my traits, only because it's easier to write about things you're super familiar with. So she has my wildly curly and unruly hair, and she has zero sense of direction. Two things that are super true for me. But I would love to be able to fly. She can also do some other things. She kind of learns about those other things through the course of the books, but she becomes quite a powerful person by the end of it. And it would be just so nice to have some of those superpowers on those days when somebody cuts you off or insults you. You know, you just, if I only had that superpower, I'd get you, man. Something satisfaction about that.
You're in my way. Let me fly over you.
So often, yeah. Why is traffic stopped? I can't see a thing. Well, I could just go up and look.
So if you had a superhero, who would your superhero be?
Who would my superhero be? It would probably be one of the doctors or nurses who works with the cataract program, where they go to countries and they allow people to see. They perform the surgery on them where they put a new lens in and then let them see. When I see the people lined up and they're blind, they can't see a thing, and they've been like that for years. And what for us is a fairly routine, normal procedure, they get this procedure and it's like a miracle for them. So that's pretty amazing. They would be my
really
hero.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that when we can create our own superheroes, right? Like everyone, Batman, there's nothing wrong with Batman and Spider-Man and Robin and all those guys, but let's create our own, right? Let's be creative. And
and we have
I
no
want to be like
shortage
a tea genie. Like I just want to like have like some kind of special power that just brings love and light to everybody. Like you cheer up a bit. Like here's a little tea bag. You like drop it in the water. And,
like an extra special Bengal spice.
Right, with that extra spice that just makes your house smell really yummy.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a couple questions here that are coming in through my message, and they're not coming in through the studio. So people do this sometimes to me. They'll message me during the show. So they want to know, what's a message you'd like to give to your readers when they read your stories?
Two things. Well, probably a whole bunch more, but the most important thing I want to give to the readers is an escape. This is an entertainment. It's something that you can pick up and know that you are going to be able to walk away from whatever things are bothering you that day, that week, however long it takes you to get through it. And that's my favorite thing about picking up a book, is when I can get completely lost in it, like to the point where you look up and you realize night has happened or occurred, or morning occurred while you're reading. So that's the one really good thing I want to get out of it. The other thing I want to really emphasize is all of the women in my books are strong. So there's no weaklings. There may be people that were raised without confidence or self-esteem, but they find their way. And it isn't because a knight has come in on shining armor, but they have found their own way and they become strong, and they're strong in and of themselves by the ends of the story. So no matter what, like even Jane with those marks that she had to live with for her whole life, she comes out fighting strong. And Emmeline gets beaten down, she comes out strong. So I just love that the characters in this book are characters that everyone, I think, can relate to, because they're very much like you and I, but they're so strong. So yeah, that would be something else I want people to get out of those books.
Awesome. The next question I have is, have you ever had any supernatural paranormal activity in your life?
You know, every once in a while, there'll be a deja vu moment with me. Like I'll think I've been here before, or I've seen this before, and I'll rack my brains, but I can't quite put my finger on it. And I don't know if that's paranormal or supernatural, or if I've been there before. But I don't know.
And the next question is, what's the difference between supernatural and paranormal?
Well, that's a very interesting question, because when I first started writing the original series, the editor I had at the time told me these are definitely urban fantasy. And I had never even heard of urban fantasy at the time. So I've learned a lot about it since then. And supernatural is more of an umbrella that holds some of the other ones. Some people call it magical realism at the top, and then the other subgenres. The urban fantasy subgenre is typically, obviously, urban setting, contemporary times. That's as opposed to high fantasy like Tolkien's Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. And so it's a low fantasy is what it would be classified as. But supernatural is a power that you or I could have, whereas paranormal is typically associated with vampires and werewolves and that kind of supernatural creature, whereas the urban fantasy or the paranormal or supernatural are people. So it's a fine line, and there's lots of people interpret things the way they do. They don't necessarily look up in the dictionary what it is, or look how that company defines, how does Amazon define it, or how does Apple Books define it. So supernatural to me just captures more of it than I would capture if I called it an urban fantasy or something else.
And do you have any mediums in your family? That's why you're interested in the supernatural world.
I don't think I do. No one's admitted it to me yet anyway.
So do you feel like there's any clairvoyance or anything like in family members or friends around you?
I guess I haven't seen it in action. I haven't. I believe in it. I think it's true. I think there are people that can do things we can't explain because we're not all knowing. But I haven't run across it yet. But it wouldn't be surprised if someone simply hadn't said anything about it yet, because that's another part of this, is that if there are people out there that have these and they're not doing it for commercial purposes, chances are they're keeping pretty quiet about it.
Yeah, I don't think they're right out there, right?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Like every once in a while, I'll hear somebody say, "Oh, I knew that was going to happen." You say, "You did?" And they say, "Mm-hmm." You gotta think, well, maybe
It's almost
they
like
did.
the intuition, right? That of something coming around the corner. I know I get a lot of intuition where I'm like, something's coming up. I can just
You can
the
feel it.
energy and just the energy in the room, right? It's like, what's
Yeah.
in this room that's gonna happen? Like,
Yeah.
there's that thrill of trying to
Yeah.
figure out what it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
So those are a couple questions that we have from a bunch of viewers that are watching. We have a bunch of viewers that are watching from all over. So thank you for those questions. I really appreciate those questions coming in. So I want to get back into a little bit about you, JP. So what has writing taught you about yourself?
It has taught me I am far more creative than I gave myself credit for prior. When I first started writing, I had a notebook, or it was actually a document on my computer. And when I had an idea for a great twist or a great scene, I would write it in that document. And what I was doing was hoarding those ideas, because I didn't think I'd ever get more than the 5 or 6 that I had. And with every bit of writing that I did, I would get more ideas, and that list started to grow. And next thing you know, that list was quite large. And what I realized was that my imagination wasn't static. It was like a muscle. And the more I used it, the more these ideas came to me. And hoarding these ideas wasn't helping make my stories any more interesting. So I started using the ideas, and I used all the ideas, because I know now that more ideas are going to come. I have faith that they'll come, and they always do. So I don't hoard ideas anymore, and I don't question the process anymore. I know I will come up with ideas that will blow people's socks off. And I just keep that confidence inside.
So do you have any plans to have these books into a movie, into a screenplay?
That would be lovely. That would be lovely.
Anybody that's watching Tea Time, check it out. Reach out
Any
to
producers
JP.
out there, just come on, call me.
We're just putting the pitch out there.
I've actually taken a couple of screenwriting courses because I've learned a little bit about the process, and there's very little likelihood that anyone is going to, knock on my door and say, "Hey, I'm from Hollywood." I do have to have a screenplay of the book prepared, and I could pay someone to do a screenplay, but I would rather try to do it myself first and see what I can do and make a go of it. It may not go anywhere, but I like a challenge. So this is my challenge. And I have taken the first book and broken it down into scenes. And then the next thing you have to do is prioritize which scenes you're going to use, because you can't use all of them. A screenplay is much shorter than a novel. And so I'm at that stage and not writing anything yet, just at the stage where I'm cutting the scenes down to the ones that I think are going to be essential to tell the story in a smaller format. So
awesome. Well, who knows? There might be a listener out there that will be saying, I want to know a little bit more about these books from JP. You just never know what's around the corner.
That's true. You don't.
So I want to get into, you have had a career in human resources. What has that taught you about individuals?
How smart, how resourceful, how hardworking, and we're not that different. One of my favorite things that I got to do was, as employees were nearing the end of their work life and they were looking ahead to retirement, I had the privilege for a couple of years, not that long because it was a job everyone wanted, of walking them through that process. They would bring their wife in, or whoever was close to them. Sometimes it was a daughter or a son or a sibling, and they would talk about how they wanted their finances, their retirement pension funds paid out, and then they would talk about what they were going to be doing in their retirement, and just the joy of going through that process with them, and sometimes even being present at the event where they were going out on that journey to retirement. I love those meetings, and I got to know people on a more personal level than you get to know them when they're having, coming in and maybe changing jobs, moving from one position to another position, and it's all very worky. But when you get to the other end, it's retirement and it's fun, and they're just lovely people, and I had such a good time getting to know people in that manner at work. That was one of my favorite parts of the job. Of course, phoning someone up and telling them they've got a job is also fun.
So for anybody that doesn't know what a human resource worker is, could you share a little bit on that?
Sure. It's usually a larger organization that would have a human resources department. And what we would do is, and the world has changed. It's been a long time since I've done this work. But at the time, we would put adverts out for whatever positions we were hiring for. And then our job in the human resources department was to collect those resumes, go through them and pick out the most promising ones, and then phone those people and ask them to come in for an interview. And then you would put together a panel of interviews or interview questions that would try to determine what would be the best fit and the most knowledgeable person for that job. And then they would come in and go through the interview process, and you would talk about, because we were centralized, it was a school district, and because we were centralized, we would then ask the people in that were going to be working directly with the people that we were hiring. And so, and then other than hiring, we also looked after transferring when people would transfer from one school to another. So they would apply for a job in another school, and we would facilitate that transfer. And then we also did prep for negotiations when the unions and management would be negotiating contracts. We would put together information packages for that. And we'd also put together educational things that we would do for them, like during the Pro D days, professional development days, we would help them put together, like the educational assistants might want to put on a program for the other educational assistants to help improve everyone's skills. So we would just facilitate that kind of thing. And job descriptions, you write procedures. that kind of thing.
Well, that's cool. Well, thank you for sharing for that, because somebody might want to know what a human resource worker is and what they do, right? Because
Mhm.
we do have the young youths that are watching Tea Time, and they might say, well, what is a human resource worker? And they might want to get into that field. Now, I want to get into, you did mention it earlier when I started asking you about your tea, your colors and words. So let's get, and the word that you gave me was fluid. Um, what is it about that word that describes you?
I like to think that I am not so set in my ways that I can't work like a fluid around an object that's stopping, something that's in my path. I want to be the fluid that floats around that. I also, I associate it with water. I associate water with the diving that I so enjoyed, that floating weightlessness. And that is the same motion that when I describe flying, that idea of floating when you're at neutral buoyancy underwater and you're just kind of floating, that's exactly how I think of flying. That you're at that neutral buoyancy in the air. Maybe you're just hovering, but you're you're the fluid. You're the fluid at that point.
And it has a lot to do with your stories as well. Like the blood flow is a fluid, right? And the ghost walk, the walking, you know, like
Yeah.
you just said, leveling and that, which makes a lot of sense. So your favorite color, what is your favorite color, JP?
I switch between blue and green. I switch between blue and green. So this room is a green room for me. You can't see the color, but the desk is green and the accents are all green. And this is like a forest. You could smell that pine, the resin, the leaves and the soil on the floor. That's the earthiness. And the blue is the bedroom, and the blue is fluid. The blue is the scent of the sea and salt spray and the crash of the waves. So that's the blue. And they're equally relaxing to me. They're just two different relaxing things.
Well, they're two calming colors, right?
I guess I need a lot of calming.
That's where the fluid comes in. That's where the tea comes in. And we enjoy tea, right? So, JP, one message you would have to somebody that would love to start writing supernatural fiction, what message would you have for them?
I would give them the advice that I learned when I was first writing, and that is don't bog yourself down with the idea that you're writing a book, because that's huge. It's a huge idea to keep in your head. So if you want to write a book, or if you think you've got the skill to write and the patience to write, I would suggest not to put too much pressure on yourself. Write one scene. Think of a scene that you think would be interesting and just write that one scene. And when you finish that scene, then think about what sits on either end of that scene. So for me, the first scene that I wrote was a woman jumping off a deck and floating into the air, because it was my flying dream. But when I finished that scene, I thought, well, wait just a second. She's not just going to jump off the deck. I mean, what if she crashes to the ground? She obviously knows she can fly. So then how did she know she could fly? And then on the other end of it, where was she flying to? So I think if you just keep one scene in mind and then just try to build that scene out, you'll either find you love doing it or you're frustrated by it. And hopefully you'll love doing it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. I have one question for you, JP. If you could fly, where would you fly to and why?
No. Okay, this is totally selfish. I would probably fly to Vancouver so I could go out and enjoy restaurant food like I can't get here on Denman Island, because I miss restaurants on the little island. And then I would probably fly down south and enjoy a little bit of the warmer weather, because it's gotten cold here. And I would fly away from the rain and down south. All private, personal things for me. Nothing to save the world right now.
So you're no big saver.
No, right now I'm going for creature comforts. food,
I'll leave that
and
for
warmth.
another superhero. Well, before we wrap up your tea time, JP, I want to thank you for joining me tonight and having tea with me. And I want to thank the viewers and the supporters that do support Tea Time with Miss Liz. And I want to thank everyone for just making this year an incredible year for Tea Time. We have had so many incredible authors and storytellers on Tea Time this year. So be sure to go out and grab a book. Christmas is coming around the corner. Check out some of these books. Grab a copy of Ghostmark and Bloodmark. And if you know somebody that enjoys these books, it'll be a beautiful Christmas gift too. So before we wrap up your tea time, JP, any final words you'd like to say?
Thank you so much. I got to say, the work that you do on this Miss Tea Time, I'm not sure if everyone understands what goes into it, but you have made it so comfortable to come here. You've made me welcome on all of the streams where you stream. You've made up these beautiful graphics that you've allowed us to share, me to share. And I just want to thank you because Miss Liz, your tea time is fabulous.
Well,
Congrats. It's a wonderful
thank
show.
you so much. I really
Yeah.
appreciate that. And I appreciate that the guests enjoy the work that I do for them, because having you guys come onto my platform and my table and sit and serve your tea is a true honor. I am meeting incredible people. I mean, I would have never met you, JP, had it not been for Tea Time Virtual. So it is incredible journey. So you just never know where you're going to go. So keep your eyes open, keep your ears open, because there's a lot more coming with Miss Liz. In 2023, there's going to be a lot of different coming. That's what I do, is I serve different. So coming on the 17th of November, I have Adam Duvall coming in from the UK, and he'll be speaking on the mental health warriors, because mental health is truly important to Miss Liz. And I believe that we need to be getting awareness out there. So I want to thank each and every one of you for tuning in tonight and joining me for a double dipper. That's right. We did two shows today. We did The Runaway Husbands this morning with wife abandonment syndrome. Tonight we're doing supernatural fiction. And next week we're doing mental health. We're all over. We're dipping and we're giving flavors and blends. So that's what we're doing, is we're bringing different to the table. So if you have an idea that you would like to see on the table of Miss Liz, please let me know. You can DM me, you can follow me anywhere, and give a good subscribe. And you can see all of the tea times for the last 3 years. There is over 180 tea times that you can check out. So if one doesn't resonate with you, you can, I guarantee another one will. So again, JP, thank you so much, and keep writing, and congratulations on all of your awards and everything. But before we wrap up, we got just a little under 2 minutes before we close up. Out of all the awards that you've received, what is your favorite?
I got to tell you this one.
The medal. I knew
The
she was
medal.
going for the medal. The medal is on the table.
It's just a solid. Like, it's not that the other ones aren't fabulous; they are, and some of them are more high profile. But I've got something that I can hold with that one. I just love it. It's always a big hit. I take it with me when I go to book signings and put it on the table, and people are always so surprised. Yeah, me too.
I knew she was going for the medal. I just knew it because it was there. It was like that. The medal one is the one.
Yeah.
So again, congratulations on all your awards, and continue writing and continue to bring some supernatural fiction thrillers to the world, because we need that. We need a little out of this world sometimes.
Thanks. I'll do my best.
And I will see everybody November 17th at 3 p.m. We will be having an afternoon tea. And then we will be back on the 24th with Natasha Dean. And she'll be speaking on One Story at a Time Makes a Difference. She'll be talking about children's books. So I'm super excited about that, because I love children's books as well. So check that out. And then in December, we have, I believe, 5 more tea times, and then there'll be a reunion show. So everyone will be coming back if they are able to make it back on December 22nd. Miss Liz brings back the authors, the storytellers, the change makers, all of them that have joined Miss Liz for 2022. And we just get to meet each other and share. And if you have any questions or anything that you'd like to know, you can check that out. That'll be December 22nd. More information on that will be coming soon. So again, JP, thank you so much for tonight. It was an honor, and thank you for the Bengal tea together. We had a cup of tea together. I love always having tea together, and I enjoy all of the questions that came in tonight. So thank you. But again, please verify with StreamYard so I can see your name, because all I get is a Facebook user. So again, thank you so much, and I will see you next week at 3 p.m.